The Boy Who Vanished in the Woods, Episode 2. In 2003, a boy vanished in the woods. What they found later would haunt you forever. Most of us lead rather sheltered lives. We go to work, we come home, we eat dinner, we sleep, we repeat. Some people might call it boring, but there's a certain comfort in the repetition. For others, however, the humdrum of everyday life gets a little too much. Sometimes that can be a good thing, like when you decide to take a break from work and watch your favorite YouTuber. Like when you find yourself knee-deep in the woods at midnight after downing a bottle of whiskey. Christopher Core was never one for keeping things simple, which is why his friends were pretty surprised when he announced that he wanted to spend a night alone in the woods behind their school. The idea didn't really appeal to them. It wasn't that they didn't trust Chris. He was a good guy. They just knew how dangerous the woods could be. Everyone knew about the woodsman who lived out in those parts, a hermit who had sworn off society so long ago that he built his own cabin deep in the woods. Some said he was harmless, just an old man who liked to live away from civilization. Others claimed that he did less than savory things. Either way, but instead of scaring the boys away, it only made Chris more determined to go. And before anyone could talk him out of it, he was already gone. Chris's mother, Donna, wasn't surprised when she got the call from the sheriff's department. They didn't have any news on her son, but they needed to ask her if he had been acting strangely lately. She thought back to Chris leaving earlier that day, and the only thing she could think of was the rumor going around about the woodsman's cabin. She told the police that Chris was just a curious kid, always off doing stupid stuff. They thanked her for her cooperation and promised to call back if they learned anything. When the phone clicked, Donna felt tears prickling her eyes. Her gut was telling her that something bad had happened to Chris, but she pushed it out of her mind. If the police hadn't heard anything, then it probably wasn't too bad. Meanwhile, Chris had just stumbled out of the woods and was currently making his way through the town center. No one took much notice of him. They assumed he was just a kid who had gotten lost and was heading home. Little did they know, Chris wasn't the same ever since he left the woods. His usual cocky swagger had been replaced with a sort of vacant stare. He seemed lost in thought, and he didn't respond when people greeted him. Chris just kept walking. He had this far to go until he got home. Donna and Chris's father were waiting anxiously inside when their son finally arrived. They bombarded him with questions, but his answers were confused and disjointed. That was weird. Had he really spent the entire night in the woods? Where had he been? Why didn't he come straight home? Chris didn't know. All he remembered was going for a walk, and then, well, he didn't know. Donna pulled her son into a tight hug, relieved to have him back safe and sound. But as soon as she let go, she noticed how dirty he was. She hadn't realized it before because of how dark it was, but now that the streetlights hit him, she saw scratches. He looked like he had been dragged through a hedge backwards. "You go clean up, and then we need to talk." Chris nodded obediently and headed upstairs. It was only after he had disappeared up the stairs that Donna called the police again. This time she demanded to know what they had found. As soon as the first rays of sunlight touched the ground, search parties went out, combing the woods for signs of the missing boy. They didn't have much to go on, just some vague descriptions of the area he had been seen entering, and the fact that he was carrying a backpack. The authorities spent hours searching, but they came up empty-handed. By the time the sun started dipping below the horizon again, they had to admit defeat. Chris was still missing. Everyone tried to be optimistic. Maybe he had run away from home, but he would turn up eventually. Maybe he had gotten kidnapped, but those were rare in their part of the country. Donna and her husband refused to give up hope. But even they had to admit that the odds weren't looking good. Each day that passed without finding Chris brought them closer to accepting the possibility that they would never see their son again. Then, 6 months after Chris went missing, a construction crew working on a new road nearby. The local police were called in, and they soon determined that they had found the remains of a young boy. A wave of grief washed over Donna when she heard the news. Could this be Chris? The police took samples of the bones and sent them to a lab for identification. All they could do now was wait. The results confirmed their worst fears. The bones belonged to Christopher Core. Donna and her husband were devastated, but at least now they had answers. They knew that whoever was responsible for their son's death would be brought to justice. Or maybe not. The police investigation yielded nothing. No one had seen anything. There were no witnesses, and no one had heard anything that night. Plus, the coroner had determined that Chris must have died instantly when a log fell on his head. So there was no foul play involved. At least that's what they told Donna. She couldn't help but feel that something wasn't right. Sure, an accident could have happened, but she knew that there was more to the woodsman than met the eye. Years went by and Donna never stopped thinking about her son. She missed his sense of humor, his kindness, his smile. One day, she decided she couldn't take it anymore. She had to know what really happened to Chris, and so she set out to uncover the truth herself. Donna had heard enough rumors over the years to have a pretty good idea of where to start. The police hadn't been able to find anything in the woods, but that didn't mean that the clues weren't still there. She just needed to know what to look for. After speaking to a few locals, Donna found someone willing to take her into the woods to show her the most likely place where Chris could have died. She put on some sturdy shoes, grabbed a flashlight, and headed out the door. Her heart was pounding in her chest. Was she really about to find her son's body again after all this time? Or maybe she would find evidence that pointed to the woodsman's involvement. Donna wasn't sure what she was expecting to find, but it certainly wasn't the clearing that lay before her. In the middle of the clearing stood a dilapidated cabin, the kind of cabin that you might see in a horror movie. Donna felt a chill go down her spine. This had to be the place. But as she stepped closer, she noticed something strange. There were no windows. The cabin seemed almost like an art installation. Confused, Donna circled the structure, trying to figure out how she could get inside. She was about to give up when she noticed something. The floorboards creaked under her weight. The cabin wasn't just an installation. It was a real building, but how could anyone possibly live in such a rundown place? As Donna pushed open the door, a voice startled her. "Can I help you?" Donna turned around to see a man standing in the doorway. He was tall and muscular with scraggly gray hair and a bushy beard. He looked like a lumberjack, except he seemed to have stepped right out of the 18th century. Donna took a deep breath. Was this the elusive woodsman? She had heard rumors that he was a recluse, but she hadn't expected him to be quite so extreme. "I'm sorry to bother you," Donna began. "I'm looking for my son's body. I think he might have come out here." The woodsman's face hardened. "What are you talking about?" "There are no children out here." Donna didn't know whether to believe him or not, but she knew that she wouldn't find out unless she explored further. She thanked the woodsman for his help and headed into the woods, but Donna soon realized that she was in too deep. She was being watched. She could feel it. Every time she turned around, she could swear she saw a pair of eyes staring at her from the trees. Donna was about to call it quits when she saw it, a pair of sneakers sticking out from under a log. Donna's heart leaped into her throat. Could this be Chris's shoes? She scrambled to get them out from under the log and brushed off the dirt. They were definitely his. Relief flooded through her. She had found his body. Donna had noticed something else. There was blood staining the soles of the shoes. Whoever killed Chris had done so close to the cabin. But the woodsman had claimed to know nothing about it. What was he hiding? Donna burst out of the cabin, rage giving her strength. She shoved the woodsman to the ground and started searching him. He struggled against her. Growling that she would pay for what she was doing, she tore apart his clothes, looking for any sign that he knew anything about her son's death. Finally, she found it. A small piece of fabric that looked suspiciously like a shoelace. Donna ripped it out of his pocket and held it up. "Do you know what this is?" she demanded. The woodsman looked at it, and his eyes widened in surprise. I don't know what you're talking about," he stammered. She shoved him again, harder this time, and he fell to the ground. "Tell me what you did with my son," she snarled. "Was it an accident? Did you kill him on purpose? Just tell me." Damn it. But the woodsman just stared back at her, his eyes filled with a strange, almost otherworldly sadness. Suddenly, the forest went silent. The birds stopped chirping, the wind stopped rustling the leaves. Even the insects seemed to fall silent. Donna and the woodsman looked up just in time to see a huge tree branch snap off and crash to the ground. They both froze as they heard the unmistakable crunch of bones. Slowly, Donna turned back to the woodsman, her eyes wide with understanding. He wasn't hiding anything. He was protecting her son. When the police had searched this area, they hadn't found anything because Chris's body was still buried under the ground. The branch had fallen during the storm, exposing his remains. But who killed Chris, and why? The woodsman had been living in these woods for decades, so he must have known Chris before he went missing. Donna looked at the old man kneeling before her and asked the question that had haunted her for years. "Did you know my son?" The woodsman hesitated before answering. "Your son used to visit me sometimes. He would come out here and tell me about his life, his friends, his family. I liked the boy. He was a good kid. Then why did you let him die?" The woodsman shook his head sadly. "He didn't die here. He died in a car accident. I buried him myself. I'm sorry, ma'am. I never meant for that to happen." Donna's mind reeled. So her son hadn't been murdered. But how did a boy die in a car accident in the middle of the woods? The woodsman looked up at the sky, lost in thought. "It was a long time ago," he finally said. "Before I moved out here, I used to drive a truck for a living. One day, I was hauling a load of scrap metal. It was late at night, and I was driving through town when suddenly a deer ran out in front of me. I slammed on the brakes, but it was too late. I managed to pull over on the side of the road. I don't want to hurt you, ma'am. I never meant for that to happen." Donna stared at the woodsman, unsure of what to say. She had come out here looking for answers, but all she had found were more questions. How had her son ended up in the back of a stranger's truck? And why had the driver taken him to the woods instead of calling the police? Donna knew that she would never truly get those answers, but that didn't stop her from trying. As the woodsman led her back to the cabin, Donna made up her mind. She was going to find out what really happened to her son, no matter how much it hurt. Follow for more suspenseful storytelling every week. See you next time.